Let me ask you something real quick. When is the last time a horror game actually made you feel like you were the threat? Not a jump scare, not a scripted cutscene, not a QTE where you smash X to survive. I'm talking about you sitting at your desk in your gaming chair and genuinely feeling like something is deeply wrong with you as a person because of how much you're enjoying what you're doing on screen. Because that is apparently what people are walking away from in this Halloween game demo saying, and I did not expect to be sitting here today telling you that IllFonic might have actually cooked something real. Now, hold on. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Kyler, didn't these guys make Friday the 13th? Didn't they do Predator Hunting Grounds? Aren't those the asymmetrical multiplayer guys whose games everybody loves for like 3 weeks and then the servers become a ghost town of sadness and broken dreams? Yes, that's them. That is absolutely them. But hear me out, because something about this demo footage and these hands-on impressions has me genuinely thinking they figured out what makes Michael Myers work. And it comes down to one thing that the horror gaming industry has been fumbling since like 2016. The feeling of being the wrong kind of powerful. Okay, so real quick for the people in the back who maybe haven't been following this, IllFonic, the studio behind Friday the 13th, the game, Predator Hunting Grounds, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, they have spent the last several years basically becoming the asymmetrical horror multiplayer studio. One big scary thing, 4 little scared people, classic formula. And when they announced they were doing Halloween, a lot of people's immediate reaction was, okay, cool. Dead by Daylight, but worse, Michael Myers skin, $10 DLC in 6 months, we've seen this rodeo. But then they started showing footage, and then PAX East happened, and then people actually got their hands on it, and the conversation shifted. Because here's the thing about Michael Myers that every piece of media keeps getting wrong, including his own movies after like the 3rd one. Michael Myers is not scary because he's powerful, he's not scary because he's supernatural, he's not scary because he has a knife. Michael Myers is scary because he is patient. He is incomprehensibly, unnervingly, deeply patient. He does not run, he does not panic, he does not react to you fighting back the way a normal person would. He just continues. Like a force of nature that has decided it's your turn and is genuinely unbothered by your opinion on the matter. And what IllFonic seems to have actually cracked, based on everything coming out about the demo, is that when you are playing as Michael, that patience isn't a handicap, it's the whole power fantasy. You are moving through Haddonfield like a bad idea that cannot be stopped. People who got hands-on time described it as methodical in a way that feels almost meditative. You're not rushing, you're not button mashing, you are stalking, you are appearing, you are standing in a doorway while someone slowly realizes what they're looking at. And the kills. They apparently showed a wide variety of them. They're described as brutal, cold, and weirdly cinematic. Environmental kills are in there too. There's a throat kill with the kitchen knife that people are specifically calling out. And apparently the variety is significant enough that even a 15-minute demo only scratched the surface. But here's the thing that people keep coming back to, the thing that keeps showing up in every preview. It's not the kills that make it scary, it's the moments before the kills. There's this ability called the shape jump, where Michael essentially vanishes into a shadow and relocates. On paper, that sounds kind of gamey, right? Like, oh, he teleports a little, cool, whatever. But in practice, what it's apparently doing is recreating that thing from the original movie where he's just there. He's behind you. He was in the background of a shot you didn't notice. You looked away for a second and something changed. That feeling, that specific flavor of dread where you know something is wrong, but you can't immediately identify what or where, that is what made 1978 Michael Myers terrifying. And they're apparently putting that feeling in the hands of a person sitting in a gaming chair at 10:30 p.m. eating cereal. Now let's talk about the thing that I think is actually the sleeper, interesting part of this game, single player. Because normally when an asymmetrical multiplayer game announces a single player mode, what they mean is, here's a series of tutorial missions with a thin narrative wrapper and some voiceover we recorded in an afternoon. Thanks for buying the game. That is not what IllFonic is describing here. They're saying the single player campaign is built around the full events of the original 1978 film. You play as Michael Myers, you move through Haddonfield the night he came home, you experience the story beats, you acquire abilities, you perform kills, and here's the cool twist, the whole campaign is designed as a training mode for the multiplayer. As in, you're not just playing through a story mode, you're learning to be optimal Michael Myers for when you go against 4 real human beings who are actively trying to survive you. That's actually a sick design idea. Like, that's legitimately clever. They're using the single player to teach you the mindset, not just the button inputs, the mindset. Play slow, play patient, use the environment. Think about where people will run, not where they're running right now. And they got John Carpenter involved. They're working with Malik Akkad, who has been producing this franchise literally since 1985. So the IP oversight is real. The people who actually understand what Michael Myers is supposed to be are apparently in the room. Okay, but let me pump the brakes for a second because this is where I have to put on my hat that says, I've watched this exact story before. IllFonic has done this. They have built hype. They have generated incredible goodwill. Friday the 13th had a demo period too. It had previews. It had hands-on impressions where people said this feels exactly right. This feels like the movie. And it was good. Friday the 13th was actually a solid game that a lot of people genuinely loved. And then license dispute. Server issues, no new content. The community slowly starved. And now it just exists in this limbo where you can still technically play it, but the soul has kind of left the building. Predator Hunting Grounds had a similar arc. Great concept, decent launch strategy, steep drop-off. So the question hanging over Halloween is the same one that hangs over every IllFonic game eventually. What's the plan after the honeymoon period? What is the content roadmap? What is the live service strategy? Because a beautifully designed Michael Myers experience with great kills and good atmosphere and genuine fidelity to the source material is worth nothing if the matchmaking is dead in 4 months, and as the asymmetrical multiplayer genre in general has a population problem. Dead by Daylight has survived because it has 8 years of content and a massive player base that self-sustains. Everything else in this space is playing against that gravity. Halloween is launching September 8th. That's actually a pretty smart date. You're in the fall window, you're heading into October, you've got Halloween itself as a cultural moment to ride. People will absolutely buy a Halloween game in September when October is right around the corner. But September 2027, that's the real test. Let's talk about something I think is being weirdly underplayed in most of the coverage, the Guinness World Record. At PAX East, IllFonic got 254 people to show up dressed as Michael Myers. White mask, blue jumpsuit, prop knife, the whole thing. And they broke the actual official Guinness World Record for largest gathering of people dressed as Michael Myers. Now on one level, that's a fun marketing stunt and good for them. But on another level, 254 people dressed as the same silent, unstoppable murderer standing outside a convention center in Boston. That is a piece of performance art that I generally don't think anyone involved fully thought through from a vibe perspective. That is a nightmare image. That is something you'd see in an actual horror movie as the bad sign that things are about to get very wrong. And it's honestly kind of perfect. Like, that's exactly the energy this IP should be generating. Hundreds of identical shapes just standing there, patient, not doing anything urgent, just present. Michael Myers propaganda, and it worked. So here's where I land on this. The demo has earned cautious hype. That's a real thing. I'm not giving IllFonic a victory lap yet because they haven't earned that. But what they have earned is the benefit of the doubt that they understand the assignment. They understand that Michael Myers' power is not in the knife, it's in the silence, the inevitability, the specific wrongness of encountering something that looks almost human is treating violence like a chore that needs to get done before the end of the workday. And that feeling, that specific 1978 John Carpenter synthesizer score, porch light barely doing anything against the dark feeling, if that translates to multiplayer in a way that stays compelling beyond the initial rush, this could genuinely be one of the most memorable horror games in years. And I don't say that lightly. I say that as someone who has watched a lot of horror games, promised to be that, and then trip over their own shoelaces on the way to the finish line. September 8th, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PC, it's coming home. If you're hyped about this game, drop it in the comments. If you think IllFonic is going to do IllFonic things and the servers are going to be a graveyard by Christmas, also drop it in the comments because honestly, that conversation is just as valid. Like the video, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.